The morning I found two federal agents parked in front of my neighbor's house, the whole block went silent. No lawnmowers, no barking dogs, no kids on scooters, nothing. Just the soft hum of a white government sedan and Mrs. Clara Sterling standing barefoot on her front porch, still holding her coffee mug, staring at those badges like they were written in another language. And the strange part was, 2 weeks before that, all she wanted from me was my Wi-Fi password. That was how this whole mess started. I live in a quiet little subdivision outside Austin called Silver Creek Ridge, the kind of place where every mailbox matches. Every trash can has to be hidden by 8 p.m., and every third house has a wreath that changes with the season. My wife, Sarah, calls it peaceful. I call it heavily supervised. Still, it was home. We had worked hard to buy that place. I had a small office. Over the garage, a decent view of the cul-de-sac, and most days, nobody bothered me. Most days, then Clara Sterling became chair of the HOA Compliance Committee. Clara was not the official president, but she acted like the president. Mayor, police chief, and weather service all rolled into one cardigan. She was the kind of woman who could turn a friendly wave into a warning. She carried a clipboard everywhere, red lipstick, and this smile that never reached her eyes. If your grass was half an inch too tall, she knew. If your porch light was too warm-toned, she knew. If you parked a car in your driveway for more than 2 days, somehow she considered that a personal attack. But I never imagined she would come after my internet. It was a Tuesday morning, around 8:15. I had just poured coffee, opened my laptop, and was reviewing overnight security reports. For work, I do cyber defense for a federal critical infrastructure team. I do not talk about it much because, honestly, nobody at a barbecue wants to hear about network risk and intrusion patterns. To the neighborhood, I was just Nathan from the Blue House, the quiet guy who worked from home and wore old college sweatshirts. Then the doorbell rang. I checked the camera and saw Clara standing there with 2 teenage boys behind her, both holding clipboards and looking like they wanted to disappear into the bushes. I opened the door but kept the screen closed. "Good morning, Nathan," she said, using the kind of tone people use right before they ruin your day. "We're conducting a neighborhood digital wellness review." I stared at her. "A what?" "A digital wellness review," she repeated, slower this time, like I was the problem. "Several residents have reported unstable Wi-Fi performance, and your home appears to be producing excessive signal congestion." One of the boys looked at his shoes. I said, "Clara, Wi-Fi doesn't work like leaf blowers. I'm not blasting the neighborhood with internet." Her smile tightened. "Well, my grandson was disconnected from his robotics qualifier twice yesterday, and your router name appears very strong on his device." "My router name?" She lifted her clipboard. Bluehouse_private_5G. "That's because I live next door." "Exactly," she said, as if she had just solved a murder. "So I'll need your Wi-Fi password for inspection." For a second, I honestly thought she was joking. I laughed. Not a mean laugh, just a surprised one. But her face did not change. "Absolutely not," I said. "If you have nothing to hide, this should not be an issue." That sentence did something to me. I had heard it before from people who wanted access they had not earned. I felt my jaw tighten. "My network is private property," I said. "You are not inspecting anything." Clara leaned toward the screen. "Refusal will be noted." "Good," noted in cursive. The taller teenager made a noise that sounded like he swallowed a laugh. Clara shot him a look so sharp, he straightened up immediately. She held up a paper with the HOA logo at the top. It looked photocopied. The rest was typed in a font that had no business appearing in adult conflict. "This is authorized by the Compliance Committee," she said. "No signature. No vote. No policy number," I said. "That's not authorization. That's arts and crafts." Her red lipstick pressed into a flat line. "We'll be back." "I'll leave the porch light on," I said, and shut the door. Sarah came downstairs 5 minutes later and found me still standing in the kitchen, staring into my coffee. "What happened?" "Clara wants our Wi-Fi." "Password." Sarah blinked. "For what?" "To inspect our digital wellness." She closed her eyes. "Please tell me you didn't say something sarcastic." "I said several things sarcastic." "Nathan?" She brought teenagers, Sarah, with clipboards. By lunch, I had mostly forgotten about it. Clara did strange things all the time. She once sent a warning letter to a man because his scarecrow was emotionally inconsistent with autumn standards. So I figured this was just another little power trip. Then that evening, I saw the first warning sign. One of my decoy network zones lit up with repeated access attempts. Nothing sensitive, nothing dangerous. Just a fake entry point I kept isolated for monitoring unwanted curiosity. It was the digital equivalent of a locked shed with a motion light. Somebody had walked up and started rattling the door. I sat up in my chair. The attempts were clumsy, amateur, and coming from nearby. Not across town. Not random noise from the internet. Nearby, I checked the logs again. And there it was, a device bouncing through a cheap extender somewhere close to the front of the subdivision. The name attached to one cached request made me stop breathing for half a second. CS_compliance_hub. Clara Sterling. I leaned back slowly and whispered, "You've got to be kidding me." Over the next 3 days, it got worse. Clara sent a neighborhood email announcing a voluntary router transparency initiative. She attached a form asking residents to list their Wi-Fi names, passwords, router brands, and number of connected devices. One neighbor replied, "Is this real?" Another replied, "No." Clara responded with a long paragraph about community, harmony, and bandwidth fairness. I said nothing publicly. Instead, I documented everything. I watched as her device poked at my decoys again. I saw a second device join, something newer, stronger, more careful. That told me Clara was not doing this alone. She did not know enough to be dangerous by herself, but she knew someone who did. Then my neighbor Emily knocked on my door, holding a printed page. "Do you know why my printer spit this out last night?" she asked. The page said, "Testing Community Range Node 3. My stomach dropped. "Did Clara come by recently?" I asked. Emily frowned. She asked if my router was near a window. I thought she was just being weird. "She is being weird," I said. "But now she's being weird with equipment." That night, I walked my dog past Clara's house and noticed a little black box tucked behind a planter near her garage. Lights blinking under the leaves. I did not touch it. I just took a picture, went home, and added it to the folder I had already started. Sarah stood in my office doorway, arms crossed. "This is bigger than HOA nonsense, isn't it?" Kay nodded. "She's trying to invade private networks. Can you stop her?" "I already have." "Then why do you look worried?" "Because somebody helped her set it up." The turning point came on Friday night. Clara and her nephew, a slick little guy named Austin who drove a leased BMW and called himself a smart home consultant, stood near the sidewalk pretending to discuss irrigation. My monitors lit up like a Christmas tree. Their device tried to open a fake shared folder I had labeled Neighborhood Resident List. It was bait. Harmless, isolated, and monitored. They took it. In that moment, I had everything I needed: timestamps, device identifiers, photos, neighbor reports, connection paths. Attempts to access fake resident data, and a link to Austin's consulting domain, which had already been flagged in a separate data harvesting complaint. I forwarded the evidence through proper channels to a former colleague in federal cyber enforcement. His response came back 20 minutes later. "Do not confront. Preserve logs. This is actionable." That was when the anger finally caught up with me. I was not angry because Clara annoyed me. I was used to that. I was angry because she had looked at every family on that street and decided their privacy belonged to her. She had dressed it up as safety, fairness, compliance. All those clean little words people use when they want control without admitting it. And because I was quiet, because I worked from home, because I did not show off, she assumed I was easy. She assumed wrong. The following Tuesday, the government sedan arrived. 2 agents walked up to Clara's door. She answered, smiling at first, probably thinking they were delivery people or new residents she could intimidate. Then they showed badges. Her smile fell apart. I was across the street pretending to pull weeds from a flower bed that had never received so much attention in its life. Clara pointed toward my house. I could not hear everything. But I heard my name. I heard misunderstanding. Heard neighborhood safety. Then one agent said clearly, "Ma'am, this warrant concerns unauthorized digital access and surveillance equipment." Her face went white. They searched her garage. By noon, half the neighborhood was outside. Inside, they found extenders, routers, a laptop, printed password forms, and a little homemade command center set up on a folding table next to Christmas decorations. Austin showed up 20 minutes later. Saw the agents and suddenly remembered he had somewhere else to be. He did not get far. Another car met him at the corner. Clara was not dragged away in handcuffs that day. Real life is not always that dramatic. But she was served. Her equipment was seized. Her committee role vanished overnight. The HOA sent an email so fast you could smell the panic through the screen. The association has never authorized any collection of resident network information. Translation: Clara was on her own. At the emergency HOA meeting, she tried one last performance. She stood at the front of the clubhouse, hands shaking around a printed statement. "I was only trying to protect this community," she said. Emily stood up behind me. "You accessed my printer," another neighbor said. "You asked my son for our router password." An older man in the back said, "You told my wife our baby monitor needed calibration." Clara looked around the room, and for the first time since I had known her, she had no audience left. Then she turned to me. "You set me up." I stood slowly. "No, Clara. You knocked on my door and asked for my password." After that, I just paid attention. The room went silent. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because that was the truth, plain and simple. I did not hack her. I did not threaten her. I did not even raise my voice. Just documented what she chose to do. 3 months later, Clara pled guilty to reduced charges tied 2 unauthorized access attempts and unlawful surveillance. Austin took a worse deal because his name was connected to other cases. The HOA rewrote its rules. No resident, board member, or committee could ever request private network access again. Clara sold her house before spring. The new family who moved in is nice. They brought banana bread over and asked if I knew a good internet provider. Sarah laughed so hard she had to leave the room. These days, the street feels normal again. Kids ride bikes, people wave. Nobody asks for passwords. Sometimes neighbors still call me Firewall Nathan, which I pretend to hate but secretly enjoy. But here is the part I still think about. Clara did not start with a crime. She started with entitlement. She believed her fear gave her authority. She believed her title made her judgment more important than everyone else's rights. And she believed a quiet man in a hoodie would be too embarrassed, too polite, or too uninformed to push back. That is how people like her win most of the time, not because they are smarter, because decent people do not want the fight. So tell me, did I take it too far by letting Clara walk into the trap she built herself? Or was that the only way to stop someone who thought rules were just weapons with nicer names? Have you ever met someone who used a position, a badge, a clipboard, or a fake smile to make other people feel small? Drop your story in the comments and subscribe to Ho Drama Neighbor for more. Because I promise you, somewhere out there, another Clara is standing on somebody's porch right now, asking for something she has no right to take.